I want you to imagine you're just scrolling online. You're doing that late night doom scrolling, swiping through your feed.
We all do it.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And suddenly you stumble across this incredibly muscular 60-year-old man. I mean, he's got this thick, bright white beard, a silver gray top knot bun, and he is wearing a bright black and blue hibiscus print floral sarong.
Which is quite the look.
Oh, it's a statement. And he's got these gold aviators on, a red, white, and blue American flag athletic headband, and a massive gold Cuban link chain.
Right.
And he is just casually drinking this glowing, multicolored neon drink that's called Nebula Sip. And right beside him, this is the kicker, right beside him is a sleek, black, biomechanical alien sidekick.
Naturally.
And the alien sounds exactly like Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in. It really looks like the absolute definition of pure, chaotic internet absurdity. You know, like the kind of hyper-stimulating, deep-fried digital aesthetic that you just assume is low-effort AI slop designed to farm engagement.
Yeah, just trying to get views.
Exactly. You might chuckle, maybe shake your head, and just keep scrolling.
But beneath the surface of this completely surreal digital fever dream, there is actually a profound, meticulously constructed fortress for psychological healing.
There really is. It's fascinating.
So today's deep dive is unpacking this sprawling AI-generated universe. It's from a studio called Trouz AI and the viral TikTok account known as Check Stripper.
Right. Those are the main hubs.
Yeah. And we are exploring how this bizarre digital multiverse functions as a vital defense mechanism and, honestly, a highly structured coping tool for a military veteran dealing with complex PTSD.
It's quite the journey. We're going to trace how this creator moves from real-world chaos to complete digital control. We'll analyze how things like absurdist comedy, hypermasculinity, and even in-universe glowing space drugs act as real, functioning therapeutic frameworks.
It's wild. So we have to start with the architect himself. The individual behind the glowing drinks and the alien sidekicks is a man named Trevor Kristen. He is a 60-year-old United States Marine Corps infantry veteran. And his background is just all over the map. I mean, he's a former gymnast. He spent years as a bartender. And today, he styles himself professionally as an AI agent architect.
Which makes sense once you see what he's building. And the way he segments his online presence is actually the first clue that there's a highly structured method to all this madness. He operates with a dual identity.
Okay, break that down for me.
So Trouz AI is the creative parody project. It's the production studio, essentially. Then you have Checkbook Stripper, which is his primary publishing ecosystem on TikTok.
Right.
That's the venue where he broadcasts this independent comedy, which it blends dark military veteran humor, rural cowboy aesthetics, and these surreal AI-generated voiceovers.
And the undisputed main character of this entire multiverse is Trouz.
Right.
And it's pronounced Trouz, like trouser. And Trouz is this exaggerated, hyper-stylized reflection of Trevor himself. The visual design is incredibly specific. Like, we're talking about a deeply tanned, heavily tattooed physique. And the tattoos aren't just random AI generation.
No, they're highly specific.
Right. They're specific USMC tattoos. He has a circular skull and crossed rifles right on his chest, and corporal insignia tattooed on the inside of both biceps.
It's a very curated aesthetic that bridges two very different worlds. You have the red, white, and blue striped athletic headbands and wristbands paired with that really heavy gold Cuban link chain.
Yeah, it's a huge chain.
Massive. And sometimes he wears a big $ pendant, other times like a gold marijuana leaf. The gold aviator sunglasses are practically fused to his face at this point.
Totally.
And for wardrobe, it's either a purple stringer tank top or that signature floral sarong. In fact, the internal documentation from his master prompt vault literally describes the character's vibe as old school tough meets new school flex.
Old school tough meets new school flex. I love that. He's this battle-hardened badass who relies on dark humor and is just, perpetually ready to party.
Always.
He's usually smirking, almost always smoking a cigar or a blunt or some ornate pipe. The demeanor is just permanently laid back.
Yeah.
But what really anchors his character to reality is the methodology behind the AI generation. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
Trevor doesn't just type cool 60-year-old guy into an image generator. He uses actual photographs of himself and real physical props as the foundational starting point.
The image process.
Exactly, for all these generations. So the character of Trouz is entirely artificial in its final rendered form, but it's intimately tethered to the physical reality of the creator. The wrinkles, the posture, the specific shape of the beard, they are his.
Wait, hold on. I get that he's building this digital reflection of himself, but if the ultimate goal here is to process very real internal trauma complex PTSD, why build a character so hyper-focused on external superficial flexes?
What do you mean?
Well, you know, the gold chains, the luxury swimming pools, the streetwear influencer aesthetic, isn't that extreme superficiality a massive distraction from doing actual therapeutic work?
That's a great question. But the extreme superficiality is actually the armor itself.
Really?
Yeah. When an individual is dealing with complex PTSD, the internal psychological landscape feels incredibly unsafe. It is heavy, it's unpredictable, and it's fraught with triggers.
Right.
So by projecting himself into an avatar that is completely obsessed with external, low-stakes, highly visible flexes, like, how heavy a gold chain is, or making sure the pool lighting is perfect at golden hour, he is manufacturing a safe psychological distance.
No.
He's creating an environment that is stripped of true emotional danger. In the world of Trouz, the biggest crisis you face is whether your aviators match your sarong.
Okay, that makes so much sense. It's a completely controlled environment. And that environment isn't just one room or one beach, right? The architecture of this absurdity is massive.
It's huge.
We are looking at a multiverse consisting of 24 different story universes. And Trouz is the star of every single one. You've got deep space outposts, medieval taverns, 1980s action movie cityscapes.
And across all 24 of those universes, there's an overarching cosmic lore that ties everything together. In every single reality, the convenience store 7-Eleven operates as the ultimate evil corporate overlords.
See, making a mid-tier convenience store the evil overlord of a sprawling sci-fi fantasy multiverse is so incredibly funny to me.
It's brilliant.
It really is. And within this lore, Trouz AI and 7-Eleven are together responsible for creating the fictional party favors of this universe. These are AI-crafted substances that visually look like swirling multicolored galaxies trapped in glass.
Yeah, they have a very specific catalog of products. There is Nebula Sip, which is the AI-created liquor.
Right.
You have Nebula Spice, which is an AI-generated snortable powder. Nebula Perp is the AI-created marijuana. And Nebula Shrooms are the AI psychedelics.
Got all the bases covered.
Exactly. And the visual design of these items is highly consistent. They glow, they have this neon cosmic aesthetic, and they're usually branded with a recurring logo, which is a 7-pointed serrated palmate leaf.
And what's so cool is how these items are used as Easter eggs. Like, if you look closely at the AI images and videos, you'll see a bottle of Nebula Sip just glowing on a shelf in the background of some gritty sci-fi dive called Cube's Bar.
Yeah.
Or you'll spot that 7-pointed leaf spray painted on a cyberpunk alley wall. And then, of course, you have the sidekicks who actually interact with these substances, mainly Xeno the alien. Xeno is this sleek, black, biomechanical xenomorph. Visually, he looks like something straight out of a terrifying Ridley Scott film.
Terrifying. But auditorily and behaviorally, Xeno sounds like Dave Chappelle.
It's so jarring.
He tells stand-up jokes, he wears a little pink unicorn pin on his chest, and occasionally he just projectile vomits glowing green goo after consuming too much nebula dust.
It's just complete sensory whiplash. You have this terrifying alien making jokes with Dave Chappelle's cadence while throwing up galaxy juice. Right. And then there's M3GN 3.0, this deadpan, slightly unhinged AI spokesmodel who acts as the face of the Trouz AI commercials. She delivers these ridiculous corporate pitches for the Nebula products and always ends with the exact same meta taglines. It's insane, right?
She does. And, when you're a creator managing 24 different realities, you really need narrative anchors.
What do you mean by anchors?
Well, you might be rendering a scene where you're flying a spaceship one day, and then the next day you're drinking in a Hobbit tavern. Items like Nebula Sip or the presence of Xeno and M3GN, they provide a through line.
Okay.
They signal to the audience, and crucially to Trevor's own nervous system, we are still in the safe zone. The setting has changed, but the rules of our world remain intact.
It unifies the chaos. And returning to the 7-Eleven detail for a second, making a convenience store the ultimate corporate villain is just a perfect comedic deflection.
It really is.
You take these massive, overwhelming concepts like systemic oppression, late-stage capitalism, or just the feeling of having your life controlled by forces larger than yourself, and you reduce it to the place where you buy a stale hot dog at 2 in the morning. It completely takes the fear out of the equation.
Think about the concept of a psychological totem from the movie Inception.
Oh yeah, the spinning top.
Exactly. A small, unique object that grounds you and tells you what reality you're currently occupying. These nebula items function exactly like that, but they also operate as deeply layered satire.
How so?
Well, here is a 60-year-old veteran using AI to create fictional, galaxy-colored space drugs. It's a direct commentary on how trauma is often self-medicated, particularly within the veteran community.
Wow, okay, so by making it a glowing magical space liquor, he completely removes the real-world stigma. He gets to joke about getting totally wasted, about the chaos of intoxication, without any of the dark, heavy baggage that usually comes with discussing substance abuse and trauma. It's a mechanical way to unify the story, but it's also a way to sanitize the reality of the pain.
And this is where the world building shifts from mere fantasy into autobiography. Trevor actually uses this absurd AI ecosystem to process his real lived history.
Wait, really?
Yeah. He translates his real-world chaos, specifically his wild Florida man antics from his time living in Panama City Beach, Florida, into digital art.
The way he translates these stories is incredible. Let's look at the Portal Pot incident vlog, for example. The actual script notes for the series outline a timeline of the Trouz character getting progressively more intoxicated at a festival in Panama City Beach.
Right, PCB.
Yeah, and it builds to this climatic scene where someone opens the door of a plastic portable toilet to find Trouz completely crashed out inside.
But the sensory details he chooses to prompt into the AI are what really elevate it. He's passed out on a porta potty, sure, but his gold aviators are still perfectly seated on his face.
Naturally.
The heavy gold Cuban link chain is catching the festival light perfectly, and right next to him on the plastic floor, a bottle of Nebula Sip is standing perfectly upright.
That upright bottle is the entire punchline to me.
Yeah.
He's in the most compromising, chaotic position imaginable, but the drink didn't spill. There's this inherent, ridiculous resilience to the character.
Exactly.
And then you have the Tropical Storm Acid trilogy. This is based on a real event from his life, right?
Yes, taking psychedelics and running out into the dark, churning waters of the Gulf of Mexico during a hurricane.
The morning after confession vlog for that storyline is just a masterclass in comedic contrast.
Yeah.
You have this hyper-realistic 4K rendering of a soaking wet Trouz. His American flag headband is barely hanging on, his hair is a mess, and he is staring dead center into the camera.
It's so visceral.
And he just casually, with zero emotion, admits, "I should not have done acid during a tropical storm." He pauses for a beat and adds, "The waves were talking to me. They were not being nice."
The delivery is so unbothered, and we see the exact same demeanor in the PCB arrest scene. It's a wide shot of Spring Break Trouz, wearing the floral sarong and the aviators, handcuffed behind his back by fully geared, tactical police officers.
Right next to a police SUV outside Club La Vela on Thomas Drive.
Exactly. It looks like a real news broadcast photograph, but Trouz is just standing there with a slight smirk.
And he also uses the visual static of the real world to heighten these scenes, doesn't he? Like, he frequently inserts political figures into the background of these surreal dive bar narratives.
He does. You'll see AI generations of Kristi Noem at a bar, or Pam Bondi having a drunken press conference, or RFK Jr. eating a dead animal while Trouz casually tells him to just buy protein powder at Walmart.
It's so jarring to see these famous faces pop up next to an alien. But, and this is important, it never feels like a political statement.
No, not at all.
They function entirely as neutral comedic props. It's just taking recognizable people from the daily news cycle and dropping them into a ridiculous scenario to make the absurdity feel more grounded. We aren't endorsing any of those viewpoints, and neither is he. He's just using them as texture.
Right. They are pop culture archetypes used to texture the background. But when we look at his personal stories, the arrest, the hurricane passing out at the festival, we have to ask why he chooses to tell these specific, vulnerable stories through this highly processed artificial medium.
Well, if these are real stories, and he wants to share them with an audience, why not just turn on his phone camera?
Exactly.
Why not just sit there as Trevor Kristen, the real human being, and tell the story of the hurricane? Does applying this AI slop filter, and speaking strictly through the Trouz alter ego, give him the permission to confess to this chaotic behavior without having to actually feel the real-world shame of it?
That's a profound point, because shame is a paralyzing emotion. When shame is intertwined with trauma, it can make it almost impossible to articulate your own history.
That makes a lot of sense.
If Trevor sat in front of camera and recounted his lowest, most chaotic moments as himself, it could trigger a massive wave of vulnerability, regret, and psychological distress. By handing those memories over to True, a character who is fundamentally invincible and incapable of feeling shame, he strips the memory of its emotional teeth.
Wow.
He reclaims his history, but he gets to own it as a comedy rather than a tragedy.
Which brings us to the psychology of the hypermasculine persona and this whole concept of the alter ego as armor. Because Trevor explicitly states in his documentation that the creation of this content is therapy for complex PTSD.
Yes, and we need to define what complex PTSD actually is because it differs significantly from standard PTSD.
Okay, yeah, what's the difference?
Standard PTSD is often associated with a single terrifying event, like a car crash or a specific firefight. Complex PTSD, or CPTSD, stems from prolonged, repeated
Hey, Pammy,
trauma
what's the
over
special?
months
The
or
DOW
years,
is over
often in
50,000
situations where
right
the
now. I don't know what you're
individual
laughing
is
about.
emotionally trapped.
Oh, I see.
It profoundly damages a person's
No.
ability to regulate their
No,
emotions.
sir. You don't tell
and
me anything,
drastically
fake
distorts their
bartender.
sense
You're not
of
even a
self-worth.
bartender.
So look at the character
Okay,
of
good to
Trouz
go?
through the lens of someone struggling with a distorted sense of self-worth and emotional dysregulation. Trouz is the absolute antithesis of that.
Exactly.
He is an exaggerated, hyper-masculine parody. He is muscular, he's loud, completely confident, and fundamentally unbothered.
It is the ultimate fantasy of invulnerability for a nervous system that has spent years feeling vulnerable. The smirk, the constant smoking, which, by the way, is a classic cinematic trope signaling that a character is unfazed by danger.
Right, like the action hero casually lighting a cigarette
PCB
while
Bike
an
Week, baby. It's
explosion
your
goes
boy
off
Trouz
behind him.
walking the strip with my girl Trixie,
Whether
low-key
Trouz is
checking
flying
out
a
all the bikes.
spaceship at Mach speed or
Looks like
standing
it takes a
handcuffed
lot of money
outside
to
a
look
nightclub,
poor.
his internal heart rate never seems to spike.
He is a proxy who can handle the chaos that the creator finds overwhelming. And you can see why this specific flavor of hypermasculine, unbothered energy resonates so deeply with the audience, especially other military veterans.
Oh, military humor is a very specific in-group language.
It is. It is notoriously dark, chaotic, and heavily reliant on gallows humor.
Veterans have this shared cultural understanding of using dark humor to cope with unbearable stress. When they scroll past a video of Trouz getting arrested but staying completely cool, or joking about surviving a hurricane while high on fictional space drugs, they recognize that emotional undercurrent.
They get the joke.
They understand the survival mechanism at play. They might not be diagnosing it as, CPTSD narrative therapy, but they get it on a visceral soul level.
I totally see the value of the armor. But let's look at this critically for a second.
Okay.
If Trouz is a psychological hazmat suit, if he is completely emotionless and never bothered by anything, is this actually helping the creator process his emotions? Or has he just engineered a highly complex 4K resolution way to avoid feeling his feelings entirely?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Avoidance is a very common critique of humor-based coping mechanisms. In the short term, avoidance is highly effective, but for long-term therapeutic growth, the trauma has to be processed, not just dodged.
Right.
However, what Trevor is doing is not pure avoidance.
It isn't.
No, because he is actively returning to the sites of his trauma and chaos. He's revisiting the hurricane, the arrests, the substance use. He is engaging directly with the radioactive material of his past. The alter ego is just a pair of robotic arms. He's still handling the radioactive core, but he's not letting it burn his skin.
Handling radioactive material with robotic arms. That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it. And it perfectly transitions us into the actual mechanics of how he moves that material. We need to explicitly connect this world building to establish therapeutic frameworks because this journey from chaos to control is highly deliberate.
It's extremely deliberate. Let's look at the psychology of dark humor. It's actually a physiological intervention.
Neurologically speaking.
Yes. Neurologically, when we laugh at something frightening or chaotic, our brain reduces the production of cortisol, which is the primary stress hormone. Dark humor creates a psychological distance between the self and the event.
So if you can take an uncontrollable, terrifying event, like a hurricane or a chaotic arrest, and make it funny, you have reclaimed power over it.
Exactly. You have shrunk the monster down to a manageable size.
You can really see the architecture of Viktor Frankl's logotherapy at work here.
Oh, definitely.
For those unfamiliar, logotherapy is built on the premise that human beings are fundamentally driven by a will to meaning. Like we have to find meaning in our suffering to survive it. Turning a painful, chaotic past into a sprawling digital universe that entertains thousands of people, that is the definition of finding meaning in the suffering.
And we can also look at Freud's theory of humor, Freud argued that humor is one of the most mature, high-level defense mechanisms available to the human psyche.
Also,
Well, it allows us to express taboo, painful, or socially unacceptable impulses like extreme substance use or reckless behavior during a storm in a way that society accepts because it is safely framed as a joke.
wow. But I think the most fascinating connection is how the actual process of generating AI art mirrors narrative therapy and the principles of EMDR. That's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing.
Yes, EMDR is fascinating. In traditional EMDR, a therapist guides a patient to recall a traumatic memory while simultaneously introducing a bilateral physical stimulus,
Like what kind of stimulus?
like tracking a moving finger with their eyes or alternating taps on their knees. This dual attention stimulus forces the brain to remain grounded in the present physical reality while it accesses the highly charged emotional memory.
Oh, I get it. So it prevents them from getting completely sucked back into the trauma.
Precisely. It allows the brain to reprocess the trauma without being overwhelmed by it.
So think about the process of generating these images. Trevor isn't just closing his eyes and remembering the trauma. He is sitting at a computer building a universe. The act of writing the prompts, tweaking the lighting, directing the scene, that intense focus on the present task acts as the grounding stimulus.
Exactly.
He is safely reprocessing the memory by projecting it onto a digital storyboard.
And the level of discipline he applies to this process is staggering. He approaches this with an intense, old-school Gen X work ethic. The content looks chaotic, but the methodology is rigid. Trevor uses a strict internal prompt framework called TCREI.
TCRE. I could break that down for me.
It stands for Task, Context, Resources, Evaluate, Iterate.
Wow, that sounds like a military off order.
Because it essentially is. Remember his background. First, he defines the task. What exact visual or narrative beat is the AI supposed to execute? Next is the context. He inputs the background lore, the setting, the specific tone of the universe they're currently in.
Right.
Then, resources. He feeds the AI specific reference pictures, strict style guides, and character consistency sheets.
And the parameters he uses in these prompts are incredibly technical too. He doesn't just type, make it look cool.
No, not all.
He specifies the virtual camera equipment, like he prompts for an 85mm lens, an f1.8 aperture, Unreal Engine 5 rendering, cinematic lighting, volumetric fog. He forces the AI to operate within strict geometric and mathematical boundaries.
And then after the AI generates the image, he moves to the evaluate phase, scrutinizing it against his standards, and finally iterates to fix any errors.
That exact process highlights the core therapeutic mechanism for me. For someone with complex PTSD, the external world often feels utterly unpredictable and unsafe. But inside that TCREI framework, Trevor is the absolute authority.
He is.
The focal length, the lighting, the behavior of the characters, it is all completely under his command. He is actively retraining his nervous system to experience control.
It really makes you realize that the final funny video posted to TikTok is almost secondary. The true therapy, the actual medicine, is found in the meticulous, controllable process of writing those parameters.
The medicine is the control.
Exactly. And we see how far that control extends when we look at the different archetypes across his multiverse. The Trouz character doesn't just stay in a dive bar in Florida. He maps this alter ego onto classic fictional archetypes across 24 distinct universes.
The genre adaptation is wild. You have Hyperspace Trouz, which leans heavily into sci-fi action. He's driving this ridiculous mashup vehicle, an Audi sports car, combined with a Star Wars TIE fighter, which he calls the TIE RS-5.
I love the TIE RS-5.
He flies this thing through neon cyberpunk spaceports to get to upscale intergalactic lounges with his alien co-pilot riding shotgun.
Then he pivots entirely into high fantasy with Hobbit Trouz, or Viking Trouz. The setting shifts to a rustic, candlelit medieval tavern.
Very Lord of the Rings.
Very much so. He interacts with a character named Trixie, who is written as a modern tropical getaway influencer translated into a fantasy hobbit, and they just sit around drinking elven mirror mixed with nebula sip.
He also does these gritty 1980s action movie homages. You have the Mormon Slayer and the Trouzinator. In these arcs, he's styled as a cyborg sent back from 1986, or he's a bounty hunter tracking villains with a tactical ice axe and a physical kill ledger where he crosses off names.
And perhaps the most meta iteration is the most interesting Trouz, which is a direct, shot-for-shot parody of the classic Dos Equis beer commercials.
Oh, those are classic.
It features these slow, cinematic cuts of Trouz doing impossible, legendary things before looking deadpan into the camera to deliver the line, "I don't always drink liquor, but when I do, I prefer nebula sip."
Placing the character in all these different genres,
Mhm.
sci-fi, fantasy, 80s action, commercial parody, it proves something fundamental about his coping mechanism. The universe changes, the threats change, the physics change, but the core character of Trouz remains entirely identical.
Unchanged.
The thick white beard, the aviators, the laid-back smirk, the completely unbothered attitude. It proves that no matter what genre of chaos the universe throws at him, the armor holds.
The psychological shield remains intact. But, maintaining a digital multiverse requires serious real-world infrastructure. The logistical fortresses he builds to protect this data are just as fascinating as the narratives themselves.
Tell me about it.
Trevor employs a highly rigorous digital preservation protocol utilizing the 3-2-1 backup strategy.
Oh, for those who aren't IT nerds, the 3-2-1 rule is the gold standard for data preservation. It dictates that you keep 3 separate copies of your data stored on 2 different types of media with at least 1 copy stored off-site.
Yes. So for his public reach and distribution, he uses platforms like YouTube and Spotify. For the massive 4K active video editing workflow, he relies on robust cloud platforms like Dropbox or pCloud.
But the absolute core of his privacy, security, and control lies in his NAS setup network-attached storage.
Right.
A NAS is essentially a private physical server located in your own home. It is arrays of physical hard drives that you own and maintain, totally disconnected from the vulnerabilities of corporate cloud servers.
It's a tactile physical vault for digital data. And if we connect that IT strategy back to the psychology of complex PTSD,
Yeah, think about it.
for someone who is using this digital universe as a literal lifeline to manage trauma, losing those digital files wouldn't just be an inconvenience. It wouldn't just be losing some funny TikTok
It
videos.
would be devastating.
It would mean losing the architecture of his therapy. A robust NAS setup is the physical fortification of an emotional safe haven.
Trauma is, at its core, a profound loss of control and a shattering of a person's continuous narrative. The things that happen to you are out of your hands, and your reality is altered against your will.
Exactly.
By meticulously backing up his data on private physical drives, Trevor is ensuring that this newly authored narrative, this safe, controlled universe he has painstakingly built, can never be deleted, corrupted, or taken from him by an outside force. It is the ultimate assertion of permanence. He is making his healing indestructible.
He is building a literal fallout shelter for his memories. It really forces you to reevaluate what we are looking at when we scroll through social media. We started this deep dive looking at what appeared to be the most chaotic, low-effort AI slop imaginable. A shredded 60-year-old veteran drinking glowing galaxy juice with a biomechanical alien.
But by taking the time to unpack the methodology and the psychology, we uncovered a highly disciplined, deeply therapeutic ecosystem. We saw how one man uses the absurdities of generative AI, the armor of hypermasculinity, and the structure of narrative therapy to conquer his own history. He is taking the darkest, most chaotic parts of his life and transmuting them into art and humor.
It's an incredible transformation.
As we wrap up, I want to leave you with a thought to mull over. As artificial intelligence tools become more advanced and more integrated into our daily lives, we generally view them through a very utilitarian lens.
I think of them as productivity hacks.
Right. Advanced search engines, or ways to automate tedious emails. But if a veteran can use generative AI to build a custom 24-universe multiverse that acts as an impenetrable psychological shield and an engine for deep narrative therapy, could the future of mental health treatment look less like sitting on a couch talking to a therapist and more like actively directing the movie of your own mind? If the traditional tools for processing trauma don't work for you, maybe the best way to heal is to build a whole new universe where you make the rules.
It completely redefines what it means to be the author of your own story.
It really does. Keep questioning what you see out there.